Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another episode of the Industrial Packaging Podcast with me, your host, Nathan Dube, Digital Marketing Specialist at Industrial Packaging. On today's episode, we have special return guest, Greg Berguig, Vice President of Sales and Marketing at Pack Machinery, and we're going to be discussing key points to consider when implementing packaging automation. Greg, welcome back to the show.
Thank you for having me, Nathan.
You are most welcome. So this is a pretty exciting topic, and without further ado, let's just jump into the first question. Can you tell us a bit about yourself and your role at your company?
Sure. I am the Vice President of Sales and Marketing at Pack Machinery. So all sales and marketing functions report into me, and my job is to take the projects and the machinery that our engineers develop and share the world that, and then make sure they get into factories around the world.
Awesome. Fantastic. So where can people find you on the web?
Well, obviously, I would say the first and foremost is at our website, packmachinery.com, pacmachinery.com. They can also go check out our YouTube channels and see all the exciting things we're posting on LinkedIn.
Awesome. Fantastic. Well, since the topic is key points to consider when implementing packaging automation, the first question that really ties into this is, how can customers have a detailed understanding of what and how much they are trying to do?
Yeah, so it's a good question, and I've been doing trade shows for decades now, and a lot of times we customers come in with just some slight idea of what's going on. Really, I think it's important to have a full concept, and a lot of times that's getting one of our sales reps or any packaging sales rep. Every equipment manufacturer has outside salespeople go in and really conduct a facility audit and see what's going on. We sometimes hear things like, we ask, hey, what kind of rate do you need to go at? And they say, I want to do 100 a minute. I say, oh, okay, 100 a minute. That's about 6,000 an hour. That's 40,000+ a day. Is that about right? And they say, oh no, we do about 10,000 a week, right? So it's important to understand what how you translate what the project needs are to what the equipment can do.
Yeah, that makes sense. And we have similar experiences here at Industrial Packaging when dealing with customers. In fact, one of the things that I've been working on for our sales manager, Louise, is first-time buyer's guides, 2 different blog posts, and will probably eventually be a pillar page as well. Basically, we're just trying to provide the questions to our customers, because a lot of times it seems like they don't have the right questions to ask. They have questions, but they're the wrong questions. So it's very important, particularly when dealing with something as significant as implementing packaging automation, that people are given the right assets that they need. And based on what you said, you got a YouTube page, you got your website, you can be found on LinkedIn. I know you guys have a lot of great content. And for my listeners, if you're interested, if you check out their online assets, there's plenty of great educational pieces that will help you to come up with the right questions to help either Greg or myself when you're looking for ways to get into automation.
Sure. And I think that's only the start, Nathan. Really, you start to identify a type of solution, but then let people, packagers are experts in their business, right? So we are experts in packaging equipment, and I always say, great, let's help you take it to the next level.
For sure. Moving on to the next question, how do you determine who in your organization needs to buy in to automation?
Yeah, so that's a great question, Nathan, because I think, a lot of times it's not just the project manager, it's who is this solution going to impact, right? I mean, many cases it impacts finance because you're looking to improve your bottom line. It impacts HR because you're going to make operators more efficient. It's going to impact senior management because they're going to be able to tout all the great efficiencies they have in their plant. And let's also not forget the operators. I always say, if an operator doesn't adopt a solution, it's never going to work, right? It's so critical to have them as part of the process and buy in. And I think in today's world where people are hiring as many qualified people as they can, it's not about eliminating jobs. It's about making those jobs easier and more efficient. So, if the operator buys into that solution and sees that, hey, wow, oh my goodness, before it used to take me, 45 seconds to put something into a bag, scan an order, apply a label, and now I can do it in a matter of 5-10 seconds. Well, they're going to be more satisfied with their job.
Yeah, I think that's totally true. And I like that you put an emphasis on including the operators. The way I look at it is if you have the opportunity to, you want your operators to be present for a machine demo if you're going to get one, because if they can see, the ins and outs and what their responsibility is going to be, they're going to be able to give you feedback if, oh, this is better than what we're doing, or, this may not be a good fit for us. And I think it's incredibly important to have the people that are that close to the equipment and working with it on a daily basis having a say in the process of this.
I agree. And I think also not just, it goes back to your first question as well, having a detailed understanding of what you're trying to do. A lot of times, most of the time, it is those people on the floor that really have a good idea of what the issues are, where the bottlenecks are. Something, hey, do you have an issue with quality and rejects? You have a lot of rework because your bags aren't sealed. Talk to a project manager or somebody at a show. No, we don't have that problem. You go out on the floor and talk to the operator, and you can see, yeah, oh yeah, we have to redo it all the time. So important to get them involved.
Absolutely. Very important stuff right there. Moving on to the next question, we have why do you need to think about your supplier as a long term partner?
That is a great question. And I think my first thing that comes to mind on that is that think about how long the equipment is going to last. I mean, people don't, I know a lot of times ROIs are measured in, months or maybe a couple of years, but this equipment, especially, Western machinery, it's going to last 1, 2, 3 decades or more, right? So your supplier who you're working with, it's not just about, is the solution going to work now? It's what are they going to do in terms of support? Can I get parts quickly? Hey, I bought the first machine. Can you come in and let's take a look at how it's working for us? Maybe there's options or features or changes once it's implemented that will get the customer to an even better solution. So I say treat it as a long-term relationship. It really is an investment, not only in the equipment, but the people that build it. And, like industrial packaging, the people that support it and that are going to be there week in and week out.
Yeah, I think you make a good point there. When it comes to purchasing packaging machinery, as any long-term person in this industry knows versus a startup who often doesn't know what to expect, like you said, the equipment lasts for, well-built machinery, 25, 30 years. And I think that's an important item that you pointed out. And I know that your equipment is built to be like this, but not all equipment is built to the same standard. So it's important to be able to educate buyers about the differences between machinery that's made in different parts of the world, because it's not all made to the same standards and it may not last as long. So for my listeners out there, if you are interested in automation, bagging machinery, and various other types of packaging equipment, absolutely check out Pack Machinery. Greg has been a great contact. I've really enjoyed working with him over the past couple of years to generate content like this. And it's important that you buy a brand of machinery that is going to meet your needs because, again, not all equipment is built to the same standards.
Yeah, it's a great point, Nathan. And not all equipment is. And, a lot of times I always say, you get what you pay for, right? So I was at a trade show recently and they were looking at one of our tabletop fan sealers, and the prospect was very concerned about how long it was going to last. I said, sir, I mean, if this thing doesn't last you 10, 15 years, I'd be shocked. We have a 3-year warranty that comes on the equipment because, I don't expect an issue in the first 3 years. And he was used to paying a fraction of the cost for something that was basically a throwaway item and wasn't designed for 24/7 operations. So you get what you pay for, view it as an investment in your business.
100%, totally agree. Which brings us to our next question, which is what is required for a successful automation implementation?
Oh, that is a great question. I think I think one can only touch the tip of the iceberg on that one, Nathan.
Yeah, for sure.
Obviously you've got the buy-in from the team that we talked about. I always say get the manufacturer samples of your product and samples of the material that's going to be run on that machine, right? Simulate as best as possible what the machine is expected to do when it gets to the factory. Many times customers say, no, that's fine, we'll figure it out, or I don't have the bags, or I don't have this. And yeah, it'll be fine. And then all of a sudden, I'd much rather figure out if there's fine tuning or adjustments, or maybe something was missed before the machine is shipped the factory than once it's gone, across the country, uncrated, installed, et cetera. It makes things tricky. So that's the first thing. Second thing, every manufacturer, including ourselves that I know of, offers essentially a free FAT or factory acceptance test where you can see the piece of equipment at the factory before it leaves, right? Make sure that, and take manufacturers up on that, whether that's like going there in person or, if you don't have the means, at least something virtual where you can ensure that, yes, the machine is doing what I expect it to do. And I say, it's not just for the customer, it's for the manufacturer as well, right? Like we build things, we want it to get installed successfully and to run for decades, as you said. So make sure that nothing was missed. In many cases, if it's a bigger piece of equipment, get on-site startup and training. Get that factory technician out there to train your team. I mean, there's so much turnover these days, and there's so much. I think we're so used to buying things. Think of a phone or a car where you never open up an operator's manual,
Right.
and you think that's the case with industrial machinery. It's not, and it's not just the manual; it's the tips and tricks that the technician can teach. In fact, for many of our equipment, we have a flat rate. 2 days on-site startup and training with the tech. Does it take 2 days to start it up? No, absolutely not. It's one day to fine-tune the machine and get it running, and the second day to be there as a resource for the operators, the supervisors, the maintenance crew, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, I think all of the things that you said are extremely important. I can't tell you how many stories I've heard from people who, they went online, they bought a machine from China or somewhere else from overseas, and they got the best price and they got it shipped to them, and there was a problem with it. And either it took forever to return it or they couldn't return it. If there was customer support, there was often language barriers, and the instructions often don't come with
Mm-hmm.
instructions in your language. So, I mean, these are just some of the unwanted headaches that you're going to have if you try to bypass this process. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint, and it takes time to do all these things appropriately. And I think each of the items that you said are things that our listeners need to take into consideration, particularly when you're thinking about partial and even more so full automation, because this is sensitive equipment, and you really need to make sure that all the I's are dotted and all the T's are crossed. So I definitely agree with everything that you said.
Sure. And again, I view it as an investment. If it's the first type of machine like this you're going to have in your plant, like do everything you can. By the second, third, fourth, fine. The machine, your team knows it, they're familiar. It's not a big deal. But certainly for the first one, we always recommend that.
Totally agree. All right, well, moving on to the next question, we have why is it important to revisit how well the solution is working for you 90 days after installation?
It's a great point. I don't know if it could be 90, it could be 60, it could be, it could be basically, I think you want several months after the machine has been installed and running, it's great to revisit that solution, right? One, you know, from a project goal standpoint, is it doing what you expected it to, right? And if it is, great. And if it's not, why? Why is that? Is it that you need a tech to come out and do retraining because the operators or the supervisors have changed? We see that a lot. Is it because something's not set up right? Is it because there's a change in material? I mean, these machines, in general, packaging machines are highly customizable. There's so much that can be done. You want to make sure, you know, it's rare. A manufacturer does not give up on its customer, right? So if
Of
there's
course.
headaches, or issues, it's always important to have that discussion and make sure that it's running properly. It's an investment. It's expensive, right? So everybody should be held accountable.
Absolutely, 100% agree. And I mean, everything we've discussed up to this point is fantastic information. Listeners out there, those of you who are listening, these are all things that you need to know. But this brings us to the next question, which is what is one thing that you wish customers knew before making an automation purchase?
The one thing I think that they knew before is uh, where are they trying to get to with their solution, right? Where are they? Once they have this installed and it's been 6 months or whatnot, what does success look like, right? And I think defining that is a great way to then work backwards to the steps that are required.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that. Well, that brings us up to the last question, and this is a little different from the rest, but I wanted to pick your brain on this. And I don't know if you can pick one because I know packaging machinery, various other vendors I've talked to said, "Oh, it's like picking a favorite kid." But if you could, what is your favorite piece of machinery that you sell at your company?
Favorite piece of machinery? That is a great question. I would say currently the flavor du jour, if you will, Nathan, is the roll bag R785. It is our tabletop all electric automatic bagger. It is great for entry level customers that are trying to automate putting something in a poly bag. They're trying a lot of times they're labeling those bags. It could be, they're repacking things to ship to Amazon. It could be garments. It could be outbound mailing, and it can also be large companies that are running them 3 shifts a day. The all electric feature is great because you don't have to drop an airline and worry about that. It's just a slick, high performing machine. It's also one we tend to have in stock, which is supply chains disruptions
Oh
are
yeah,
as crazy as ever. It's happening in obviously every industry, packaging industry especially, whether it's touchscreens, pneumatics, PLCs, etc. So that is my favorite machine right now. We make the bags for it as well. We have bags in stock. I love that piece of equipment.
awesome. That was a great choice because we do get a fair amount of startups who are looking for smaller tabletop equipment. So that is something that I will keep in mind for when we get requests in. But that was, in fact, the last question for today's show. Greg, I want to thank you so much for coming on once again.
Hey Nathan, always a pleasure.
Awesome. All right, ladies and gentlemen, well, that does it for another episode of the Industrial Packaging Podcast with me, your host, Nathan Dube, Digital Marketing Specialist at Industrial Packaging. I hope you enjoyed today's episode, and I hope you will tune in for the next one. But until then, I hope you have a great day, and we'll see you next time.